All right, we are going live again on Instagram and YouTube. And today we are going to talk about the social dilemma. So, this is a documentary that was actually on Netflix. They actually have it on YouTube at the moment. And there may be a time in this video that I actually have to run downstairs and let somebody in my house. So, we'll see what happens with that. But I really want to talk about the social dilemma. It is a documentary on Netflix. It was at Sundance Film Festival. It got really popular around this time last year, right when everybody is still kind of quarantined and we're figuring everything out. So that is kind of when it really gained in popularity. It's on Netflix. I believe they have it on YouTube. I will link it in the description of the YouTube video that I am also streaming, so make sure you check that out if you haven't watched it yet. But if you have watched it, I'm going to do kind of a recap of the documentary, basically running down everything that happens in it and what it's talking about and the things that it's bringing up. And then I'm also going to react while I am talking about the recap. So, we're going to say that it opens with the quote, "Nothing vast enters the life of mortals without a curse." And this is from Sophocles, Greek philosopher. So that's basically saying this social media thing is just so massive, and nothing this massive can enter the life of mortals, us, without some sort of curse that goes along with it. I can see that for sure. So we meet several people who will be interviewed over the course of the documentary, and these are all former Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Apple employees. All of these are people who have been high up in those companies. So they're definitely legit people that are talking in this documentary. They start out saying at the beginning of social media, it was helping people connect. And then it kind of took on a life of its own. So the documentary people are asking, like, so what is the problem with social media? And no one can give a clear, succinct answer. They're all like, oh, well. So this documentary is clear that it's going to lay out what the problems are with social media and maybe some solutions. So it gets right to the point. News clips start playing, talking about the dangers of social media. During the news clips, we see a teenage boy coming down the stairs at his house, and notifications pop up on the screen showing us that he's gotten a notification on his phone. During Then there's a young girl who is also scrolling through social media, and looks like this is the younger sister of this teen boy. And um, the mom asks her to come help set the table for dinner. The older sister complains that the younger daughter even has a device and says she is only 11. The older sister is clearly against social media, and then the teen boy who we saw earlier is also a member of this family. So it looks like we're going to be following this fake family throughout the course of the documentary. News clips continue about how social media is eroding the social fabric of society. And actually, I'm going to revisit the teen girl, not the teen girl, but the younger girl, the tween girl. The sister, the older teen girl, says that she's 11, and it's clear from the screen that she is like scrolling through something that looks like Instagram. It's obviously not Instagram. They're not calling out the specific social media platform, but the fake social media platform with the fake family looks a little bit like Instagram and Facebook kind of combined. But says she's 11, so she shouldn't even be on a social media platform at the age of 11, because the age of social media is 13. I've talked about this a couple times, but it's a restriction from COPA. It is the law. So COPA is the Children's Online Protection and Privacy Act, and it states that tech companies cannot have data about a person who is under the age of 13. And so that's why most social media platforms make the age 13 that you have to be in order to sign up for an account, because they are technically not allowed to have data for somebody who is under the age of 13. So she's only 11. So there's my first red flag in this documentary. The girl is 11 and she's scrolling through social media, which should not be. So we cut to a soundstage where someone is preparing for a public speech. His speech is about the world is going crazy. This man is called his name is Tristian. I think they say Tristian. It looks like it's spelled like Tristan, but I think it's pronounced Tristian Harris. He's the co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology, which is one of the like main sponsors of this documentary. So documentaries themselves obviously are always biased towards a specific agenda. So, no matter what documentary that you watch, you can be highly influenced because of the skills of the documentary, the creators of the documentary. And I know a lot of them try and have more of a non-biased opinion, but their opinions will definitely come through no matter what. Like, my opinions always come through on, stuff like this, on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram page. You'll know where I stand based on the content that I create. And so that's, take everything you see, and this is going to be a theme throughout this whole documentary. Take everything you see with a grain of salt, because everybody has their own bias, their own opinions, and it, just make sure that when you're reading somebody that has a biased opinion, recognize that they have a biased opinion and make your own judgments. Find people that have the opposite opinion and then see where your opinion lies. But we'll get into more of that in later in the documentary. So, Tristian Harris, co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology, and he's a former Google design architect. Reporters are calling him the tech industry's conscience. So he's Jiminy Cricket for tech industry, apparently. He wants the tech industry to make tech less addictive. He created a presentation about it and sent his presentation to some individuals. So while he was still at Google, he creates this presentation about how we need to start making technology less addictive for our users, and sends it to just a few of his, coworkers, friends at Google. And then it goes viral inside the company. So inside Google, this presentation is going viral. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, this is important. We need to change. But, and then nothing happens after that. So we're back to the family in this documentary, and the fake family. And the teens are getting in the car, and the girl says the boy should delete his social media and tells him to watch this video about it. And the video is looks like Whoopi Goldberg, so probably The View, talking to Jaron Lanier, who wrote a book about deleting your social media accounts. He's a computer scientist, and basically he's going into why social media, why you should delete your social media. So we're talking about how it skips around a lot, and I think that speaks to a lot of the attention span of us these days. TikTok and everything exploded because it is so quick, like literally 8 to 15 seconds, and you're on to the next video. So this jumps around a lot, so it's kind of hard to keep track as I'm taking notes during. And this is the second time I've watched this. So the first time I watched it was back in October of last year, and when it was kind of making the rounds. And so it had been a while, so I knew I needed to take some better notes to have this live discussion today about it. So just watched it again. So now we're talking about how social media sites make money, which is through advertising. If there is no product, you are the product. And this is a big, people are always like, oh, I don't think it's so much anymore, but a long time ago, people would be like, oh, Facebook is going to start charging everybody. And I'm like, I really don't think so, because they make so much more in advertising than they do charging a subscription. But this is where a company like Marco Polo, so if you are familiar with the Marco Polo app, they do not have any advertising on their platform, but they do charge a subscription if you want certain features. And I think that's a really great monetization plan because if you want to connect with your friends over Marco Polo, then you pay the subscription, and you really don't even have to pay the subscription in order to connect with your friends, but you get some additional features with the subscription. And if you're paying for the subscription, you're supporting company Marco Polo to also not bring advertisers onto the platform. So, there are social media platforms that do not rely on advertising, but you should either pay a subscription to use that platform if it's something that you use frequently, or you should make sure to support them any way you can. So, whether that's, sharing it or anything like that. So if you want a social platform that does not have advertising, then need to pay for that social platform because there are developers that need to be paid. There are, marketing. There's all sorts of people that have created this platform that you enjoy that, they can't do it for free. So they can either rely on advertising, like most social platforms, or they can rely on subscription, which I think is super important. So, support Marco Polo. I have no affiliation. I just really like that platform. Anyway, so if there is no product, then you are the product. And this is true for everything, including social media. So if you are not paying for some giveaway, if you are at, some big convention like CES and you're getting something for free, you end up giving them your email address or whatever. And that is the product that you have bought, or that they have bought. They bought you. Um, so the business model of social media is to keep users engaged on their platform so they make more money. And that's just, business 101. If I have a platform that I get money based on how many users are in the platform, using the platform, then I want to keep users on the platform and keep them coming back to the platform. So you want to make sure that your platform is highly engaging and people want to come back to it. And this was true even before social media was really a thing. Websites did the same thing. You would write a post. I mean, because I've been doing this for a really long time. Pardon me. You'd write a post, and then you would do things at the end to, direct them to another post because you want to keep them on your website because you get more revenue, more ad spend. Like, people are advertising on my website. And so the longer I keep you on my website, the more pages I get you to look at, then the more money I'm going to get. So yeah, obviously I want to create content that's going to keep you on the platform, and I'm going to keep recommending more content that is also going to keep you on my website, my social media platform, et cetera, et cetera. So our attention is what is being sold to these advertisers. So, and somebody brought up a point. I didn't write down everybody who was speaking in the documentary. I wrote down specific names of, like, key people, but it interviewed a whole lot of people. And it was, like I said, I had a hard time keeping up when I was writing the notes. So, but I really keyed in on this phrase. It was like, businesses have dreamt of this outcome, presenting products to the right people. And as a marketing person, I'm in IT, but I've dabbled in marketing just because of my website, because of my social media platforms and everything like that. So I totally get it. I want to get my product, my services, my, social media platforms in front of the people who will be interested in listening to what I have to say. I'm not interested in paying a whole bunch of money to, spray and pray, where I put my message out to a whole bunch of people who aren't going to, you know, need my services or need my advice or anything like that. So, if I'm family tech. So obviously I concentrate on technology that relates to your family and your home. So, a teenager or a somebody in their early 20s who is on their own, who has an apartment, not really my target audience because I'm looking for parents. I'm looking for people who are trying to manage their home, manage a whole family, whether that's their elderly parents or their kids or anything like that. But I'm looking for somebody who needs that kind of advice. I'm not looking for, there's other tech channels. I've said this on my YouTube channel. There's other tech channels that are going to give you all this I call speeds and feeds, that they're going to say, "Oh, hey, this is the new iPhone whatever and it has this processor and this is the, camera and it has this and this and this." Um Most of like who I think is my ideal audience wouldn't care what kind of processor this has. They're going to care, is it going to take good pictures of my family? And that's what I bring to the table here. So I don't want to pay for advertising to somebody who's going to care more about the speeds and feeds because that's not who I'm speaking to. So, yes, businesses have dreamt of this outcome where I can get my product that solves this particular person's problem into their view. And they're like, oh, yes, that is interesting. I do want to check out that product. And that's something that has not been available to businesses in the past. But the problem is that the, social platforms need data in order to have this outcome. So I need data about you that I can serve you the right products. And as a consumer, I don't actually mind being advertised to. So, I'm looking up something um about going to Disneyland, and I start getting advertising about, like, different Disneyland packages and things like that. You know what? That is interesting to me. Maybe I can save some money. I'm okay with that because that is actually going to help me out. It makes my search a little easier. But the problem is that the people who pay to play are the ones that are going to get their message across. So, if you don't have the money for that advertising, your message isn't going to get out there. But what we're talking about, like, say a commercial on a TV show, you can kind of gather, like, oh, if people of this type like this particular TV show, I'm going to advertise on this particular TV show. And it's the same kind of thing. You just don't know data about that specific person, but you do know that they like that TV show and your product relates to something that people who like that TV show would enjoy. So this is not really a new concept. It's just able to dial in um that data a little easier because they have so much to go on instead of just, this is the TV show that you like, and people who like this TV show generally like my product, so I'm going to advertise on that TV show. So like I said, it's not new, but businesses like can really benefit from this outcome where I can get really targeted with my advertising. Consumers benefit from that by getting products recommended, getting services recommended that I am actually interested in instead of just a bunch of crap that I don't really care about. So, anyway, I kind of digressed on that a little bit. So, the tracking of where you go, so the data being collected is valuable. So, we go back to the teen boy. He walks the halls at school. Like I said, it jumps around a lot. So, I'm like, okay, teen boy. Okay, now we're back. So everything you do online is being tracked, measured, recorded, how long you look at it, what you look at. They know everything you do online and can build a personality profile based on what you're doing online. And we talked about this in my other YouTube video and my other Instagram live because I like to go live in both places at the same time. It just makes it so much easier instead of like setting up a whole live and then talking all about it again on YouTube. Anyway, so I have a video called, "Is there any privacy anymore?" The answer is no. There is no true privacy online. And I talked about it in the sense of you need to make sure your kids are aware of this because anything they do online can be used against them. But this is the same kind of thing. It's, everything you do online is being tracked, measured, recorded, et cetera, et cetera. How long you look at it, what you look at. Um, they know what your personality is based on all of these data points. Um, so the AI continues to improve at guessing who we are, what we do, and like what we're going to be interested in, what we want to look at next. So the teen boy from the fake family, we're back to them again, becomes an avatar in a game screen. And then there's three guys, and I'm going to refer to them as the Connors because the actor that plays the three guys is Connor from the TV show Angel. And I'm a huge Buffy and Angel fan. So we're going to refer to the three guys as the Connors because that's his character's name in Angel. But he doesn't have a name. He's just basically the AI engine, and there's just three different forms of him kind of controlling different aspects of this teen boy avatar who, they, like I said, they create this personality profile of like who you are. So that's this, your avatar of who you are online. Um, so they're analyzing and testing the user. They send him something. Okay, he liked that. He didn't like this. And they keep building out this profile based on these things. So we get back to interviewing people again. And there's two goals for tech companies: growth and engagement. So he says there's two goals for the tech companies, and then he lists three things. So I'm like, so is there two goals or three? But growth, engagement, and advertising. So the algorithms figure out what to show to get those, all three of those, as high as possible. And I guess this is where we've got the three Connors. So we've got growth Connor, engagement Connor, and advertising Connor. And so each of those Connors, I probably just like, anyway. It's not even going to affect the Instagram feed, but I might have gotten really loud on YouTube for a second. Anyway, so these three Connors are, working together to figure out how to get the growth as high as possible, engagement as high as possible, and then advertising as high as possible. So you want, the advertisers to spend as much money as possible to get their message to that specific person. So we're back to the teen boy, and he's talking with his friend. And the three Connors start wondering why he's not interacting on the profile because he's just sitting at the lunchroom and he's like talking to his friend in an actual conversation. So the three Connors decide to send him a notification. He interacts with the notification, and then they decide to send him something that he'll like. And they send him an ad as well. And then both boys end up on their phones instead of talking to each other. We have a quote that goes across the screen that says, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And that's from Arthur C. Clarke. So there are classes taught on persuasive technology, and positive reinforcement happens when you hit refresh. So, you scroll down, you hit refresh, there's new stuff, and you're like, yes, something new. And you scroll down and hit refresh, and there's something new, except for yesterday when there was nothing new for the whole day. Because Instagram was down, and Facebook was down, and WhatsApp was down. So very interesting dichotomy there. But so you hit refresh, you get positive reinforcements like a drug. So I get something when I do something. So they talk about that like a slot machine. Same thing. Ooh, am I going to get something good this time? I did. Am I going to get something good this time? I didn't. So it's playing the slot machine. Does it have something for me that I'm going to like? And that becomes addictive, as gambling is addictive. So they started talking about like these email notifications. Now, I think it's gotten a lot better. Like notifications have gotten a lot more dynamic, but the notification before, it would send you an email. Hey, somebody liked your photo or somebody tagged you in a photo, and you click on it. to see what the photo is. They could easily include that photo in the email, but do they? No, they don't include that photo in the email so that you click and you go to that photo and see what it's about. Now you can interact with notifications, and the notification might have a preview of what the photo is and things like that. So I think that's gotten a little better, but these notifications keep you coming back to the platforms like, hey, hey, we're still here. We've got something good for you. Check it out. And then you play the slot machine and you get something. So um the teen boy gets tagged in a photo from a cute girl. Like I said, we're going back and forth a lot in this video. And then the Connors keep trying to get him to interact with the platform. So, social platforms running constant experiments to increase growth and engagement. Facebook discovers that they can affect real world behavior by pushing specific agendas like get out and vote. So, they are pushing this specific agenda. Hey, you should get out and vote. And voting increases in the real world. So, they're like, okay, if we put these bugs out there, people will respond to that. So, um, I forget who was talking about it, but he starts talking about how a tool, like, so, this is a nail file. It waits to help me. Like, it's going to be right here on my desk until I need to file my nails. And then I file my nails and then I put it back away. So it's a tool. And talking about social media is not a tool because it has its own goals and its own agenda for you. So that's just something you really need to be aware of, that social media isn't a tool, but because it has its own thoughts and opinions and agenda. Um, and then it talks about two industries that call customers users, which is drugs and software. Um, and I think that's a little dramatic. And I've meant to like start really digging to see if I can find any other thing that like actually um, calls its customers users. Um, but I haven't had time to dig into that. But I get it. Technology can be just as addicting as drugs. So I get it, but it is like the person who is using the platform. So I mean, I get both sides. Like you don't have to be so dramatic that, it's so like a drug, although a lot of parts of technology is like a drug. So um, people start talking, like, the people they're interviewing, they start talking about what their addictions are. Some people are addicted to email, some are addicted to Reddit, some Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Basically, you're going to gravitate towards the platform that is most interesting to you and gives you the content that you are looking for. Like I love going to Reddit. I especially like going to Reddit when I watch something on not social media, but like watch something on TV and I want to discuss that episode with other people. I go to Reddit for that. Um, so there's a lot of different things that, you could be addicted to email, but you're not addicted to any social media platforms. Or you could be addicted to Instagram, but you're, okay with all the other ones. So, everyone really has their own, things that they gravitate towards and can get addicted to. So then we got back to the family again. There's an ad on TV about a kitchen safe where you put something in a container and time lock it. And then the teen daughter is like, "Oh, don't we have one of those?" And the mom's like, "Oh, I have an idea." So the 11-year-old, who should not be on social media again, um, says she has a bunch of stuff to do on her social media account. And the mom takes all of the phones and puts them in this kitchen safe, and time locks it for an hour. The notifications start binging. Everybody at the table is like, "Ooh, I should check that notification. Ooh, I should check that notification." And then the teen girl, the tween girl, the 11-year-old gets up from the table and like says she's gonna like get a fork or something. I don't remember. Um, and tries to get the phones. It won't open. So she gets like a hammer or a wrench and smashes the safe, grabs her phone, and leaves. Okay, now this was the most ridiculous part of the entire documentary, because if my child did that, there is no way they're just like going to take their phone and go back upstairs. Like that is going to be a punishable offense. There will be not happy people in the family if that happened. So, she takes the phone and like goes, and then the parents are just like, That's a shame. And you're like, what just happened? Like your 11-year-old just smashed something to get to her phone and you just like let her take it upstairs. That phone would be gone in my house and she would be grounded. So, so I thought that part was just completely ridiculous. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are teens that would do something like that, but it seemed like a very normal family. I don't think most teens or tweens, like, like I said, she's 11 years old, would go and smash something to get their phone when the family's like trying to eat dinner. Like I just thought the whole scenario was ridiculous. The reaction to the scenario was ridiculous. And like, yeah, that put me off for the whole documentary. But I will get into that anyway. So I'm like, the parents literally sit there. Um, the kids in the real world think we're away from the fake family again. Kids in the real world think they have spent way more time on their phones than they think. So, or I mean, they spent way less time on their phones than they actually think. So it's the children of somebody else that they were interviewing, and they're like, "Oh, I think I spend like you know an hour on." On social media or something, and then they like look at their actual like usage reports and it's like, oh wow, I spend a lot more than I think. And it just speaks to how easy it is to get distracted with social media and go down the rabbit hole and then realize like, oh, 3 hours have gone by and I haven't done anything. But it's a lot easier for kids to think like, oh, I don't spend that much time on it. And then it's nice to kind of realize, oh, I am spending a lot of time on it. Um, Sorry, we've got a comment. It would be nice for when she plays. Yes, yes, yes. Um, so she's saying her daughter's turning 11. She's thinking about getting her a phone. I would definitely go with one of the kids safe smartphones, TrueMe or Pinwheel. I have you know posts about both of those things on YouTube. So definitely check those out. But TrueMe is a really good option, and so is Pinwheel. For that, I wouldn't go straight Android yet with an 11-year-old. But that's your child. You can decide. The TrueMe phone is a Samsung device, so it's either an A12 or an A32. So it's a really good option. But anyway, we'll continue with the social dilemma. So the kids in the real world think they've spent way less time on their phone than they actually have. And that's even a problem for us adults because it really is easy to get down that rabbit hole, like I was just saying. And so if you install something on your phone, like Space is a really good one. You can even install or use the digital well-being stuff. So, like Samsung or Android has this digital well-being so that you can limit time spent. You can override it because you're an adult, but and I think Apple has the same kind of thing where you can limit different applications for yourself to help you be less addictive. And, so if you run some of these reports, like when I installed Space and I was looking at how many times I was unlocking my phone a day, and I tried to limit how many times I unlocked my phone every day. It was just crazy. But I will say, at the time, I had a job where I needed to log into 2FA frequently. So I also had to keep unlocking my phone to get my 2FA codes. But anyway, I digress. So the older teen in the fake family, we're back in the documentary, challenges the teen boy to stay off his phone for a week, and he accepts. So, so they take his phone because the tween daughter, had smashed his screen in the process of smashing that safe. Um, so then it says, tech is not designed from child psychologists. They just want to be really good at recommending the next thing to show you. So the young girl still has her phone, which was like, they go back to the fake family, and the 11-year-old still has her phone. And well, thank you. I appreciate that. So we got a comment on Instagram. I just hit the override on my Instagram limit to keep watching this. I'll allow it. Picture the Ken Jeong. I'll allow it. That's great. That was a that was like, perfectly timed too, right? Like, you hit the limit on your Instagram, right when this is going on. Anyway, so we're back to the fake family, and the young girl still has her phone, which I'm like, the phone would be gone. She would be grounded. Why is she still using her phone? And she posts a super filtered picture on the platform and gets a lot of comments and likes. But then one person says that she has big ears, and then she gets really self conscious about her ears and she gets sad. So now we're talking about how to how they like how teens conflate value with how many likes they get. And we talked about this again, check out my IGTV or on YouTube about when with is Instagram toxic for teens. I talked a lot about this, how that they place so much value on these likes, and it's, in our day, like, I'm 42, so my day did not have cell phones. But in our day, you knew who the popular people were, but now they have like actual quantifiable data. It's like, hey, this person is more popular than you because they got more likes on their photo, which can be very, very distracting and, um, kind of can affect your self-worth. So, but definitely watch my video about is Instagram toxic for teens. I dig way into that a lot more. So, Jonathan Haidt in the documentary says that depression has increased in teen girls and it started increasing in 2010, 2011. And then it's increased in preteens up over 100%. Um, and it's increased in older teens, but not as not as high of an increase. And that's obviously around the time when social media was starting to get very popular. Um, but it's interesting to me that the increase in preteens is so high since preteens should not be on social media. So it just shows you how much parents are not respecting the age restrictions that are associated with social media platforms. Yes, class of 97. Woo! That is exactly when I graduated high school. Um, and I lived in Oregon at the time. But anyway, um, so they started talking about um, different things that are dropping, and one of the things that like totally sparked something in me is the rate of driver's licenses are dropping. So teens are not getting their driver's license. And for me, I got my driver's license the day I turned 16. I got my learner's permit the day I turned 15, which was back in the 90s, right? um, and I totally noticed that with my own kids because my daughter just turned 16. When she turned 15, I basically had to force her to go get her permit. I said, "Hey, I've scheduled a permit appointment for you on this day. You better be ready for that test." And so, she studied and you took the test and got her permit. And then the same thing with her driver's license. Okay, I scheduled your driver's license appointment on this day. You're going to go get it. So, granted, maybe that's a little, maybe as parents, we're not seeing that. And I think that's a detriment to the kids that they're not really interested in like the freedom that it came for me with driving a car because they are able to communicate with their friends on their phones and everything like that. So they're just happy staying at home and not going out and doing things like that. And like just not interested in getting their driver's license. And I really just thought that was so interesting because I also saw that in my own family. Like she was not interested. And so I ended up buying her this super cute little yellow beetle because like I thought that it would totally match her personality. She loves yellow. I thought the beetle was super cute. So I've been, checking the classifieds for the last like year, trying to find one that's cheap because I'm not spending a fortune on a 16-year-old's car. And like I wanted it to be automatic transmission. I had a manual transmission in high school, but I'm not ready to teach my child how to drive a manual transmission. I even like considered like maybe I should just call my stepdad and have him come teach her how, because like I kept just finding manual transmissions, but we ended up finding the exact right car. It had like car seat covers that were all sunflowers, and like it had flowers, and it's just the cutest little yellow beetle ever. And it was cheap. I mean, there's definitely problems with it. She has to fill the water, um, in the water pump every like 30 miles, or else the engine's gonna overheat and stuff like that. So, I mean, my first car didn't have reverse. So anyway, I'm totally digressing. So anyway, I wanted to get her this cute car and be like, "Hey, look, it's fun. Like you can go drive and you can go like pick up your friends and go have fun." But, like, kids today are just not interested in it, and it was just, like, driving me crazy. But then they said that in here, and, like I said, I hadn't had that experience when I watched it the first time, but I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes, rates of driver's licenses are dropping," and I totally understand that. Dating is dropping. I see that with, like, my nephews and my nieces where, they're just not asking, people out on dates. So the kids like, and it said something about like kids are just being too fragile, and I totally get that. Like, with my daughter who's driving, she's still just really nervous to like go out and drive, and like they're not willing to like step outside their comfort zone. And they're not gonna step outside their comfort zone to ask somebody out on a date. They're not gonna step outside their comfort zone to like go get their driver's license. They're just not willing to like put forth that effort and like have that grit. And I think that's a big problem with our teens today. So I think, you know, um, this stuff like, not forcing them to do things, but like, you know, gently pushing. So like, oh, hey, I've scheduled this appointment for you. Whether or not they pass the test isn't like my responsibility, but I kind of give them a little shove to get those done. So we're back in the documentary. We're checking in with the teen boy, and I said, AKA Sean Spencer, because the actor is also he played one of the Sean Spencers in Psych. The kid Sean Spencers. If you haven't watched Psych, that's a great show, and you should totally watch it. Anyway, he's very bored, and I kind of commented like, "You're just gonna sit in your room and do nothing." Like, okay, I don't have a phone, so I'm just gonna lay on my bed and not have anything to do. I'm so bored. Um, like, you don't have your phone, go figure something out to do. Um, and so then he sees everybody at school enjoying their phones and he's sad. And so we go back to the Connors, um, and they're confused why little Sean Spencer is not interacting with the platform. So they're looking at ways to get him back. Um, and then I said we take a look at some very pretty data centers and servers. I'm a sucker for a good data center, like just a bunch of racks of servers, just warms my heart. Um, so Kathy O'Neill, which I really liked her. There was a few people that they interviewed that I'm like, I like them. There was a few people they interviewed that I'm like, I do not like them. I don't like anything they're saying. Um, and I just because I didn't get a good feeling about them. But Kathy O'Neill, I loved her. She was like a math scientist. Maybe that's why like my little analytical brain totally meshes with hers. And she's talking about algorithms are not objective. So, who builds the AI is learning how to meet those objectives. So, the person who is creating this algorithm, who's creating the artificial intelligence, they have their own objectives. And so, they're building these they're building these algorithms to fulfill those objectives. The Connors are still trying to resurrect the teen boy. They send a notification about a user he's interacted with on a regular basis, just as he happens to be getting something from the fridge in the middle of the night and he hears the notification. Again, I was like, it's been 3 days since he's been without his phone. And he happens to be downstairs at the exact second his notification bings. Um, and it says like your ex-girlfriend is in a new relationship. And I put, sure, Connors. Like, A, they don't say that. Like, your notification isn't going to say, your ex girlfriend is in a new relationship. Mostly, you're not even going to get a notification about a relationship status. But um, so it brings it like he decides to open his phone and then he starts like going down the rabbit hole and is up all night. But that one notification is what drew him back in. Um, and then the Connors, they start talking amongst themselves about whether or not the feed is good for the users. And they're like, I don't care. Um, and so I was thinking, like, he lasted 3 days. At that point, he's like, I don't know if you've been without your phone for 3 days, but, like, the first day would be, like, really anxiety inducing, and you're like, "Ooh, I need my phone. Ooh, I need my phone." By the second day, it's, like, maybe a little less. By the third day, you're like, I don't need it." Um, so I have very side eye about this whole scenario. Um, because then you're not gonna just, like, pick it up, look at the notification, and then be on your phone all night long. But that's what they show here. So, um, the Connors are working and they're happy. They're anticipating your next move, and it's working against you. So, teen girl goes to get teen boy for school. He's exhausted because he's been on his phone all night. Um, and then Tristian is finally giving his speech, like the speech that they were prepping for at the beginning of the documentary. And he's talking about first, technology overwhelms human weakness, and then it overwhelms like human nature. And he says, checkmate humanity. And I'm like, that's a little dramatic. Um, and then we're talking to Jaron Lanier again. He's talking about Wikipedia, giving people he's like, social media is like if you go to Wikipedia and it's going to give you a different definition of whatever you're looking for based on your own interests, because the feeds are customized to your own interests, your own location. Gonna grab a drink. I've been talking for a while. And so different users see different feeds because it's customized to each user. Um, so then they go into this like Truman Show clip, and I love a good movie quote because I am obsessed with movies. Um, and so the Truman Show clip, we accept the reality of the world we are presented because they're talking about how Truman wasn't really questioning about, what he's here for. So we accept the reality of the world that we are presented. And what this is kind of leading towards is you enter this echo chamber of your own interests and your own opinions and your own ideas. Um, and so when you enter this echo chamber of your own ideas, your interests divide. So, it talked about it more in the sense of right and left. So, Democrat and Republican. So if I'm a Republican and I'm seeing all of this stuff that about Republicans and how right we are and everything and great, great, and then I'm a Democrat and all I see is everything about how right we are as Democrats and everything, you're in this echo chamber and you're like, yes, I'm right. This is exactly why is this wrong, because everything you see is just reinforcing the fact that you are right. And so they also start talking about the YouTube rabbit hole where you can find anything to support your theory. So I've talked about this before on another video where if I say that anybody who ate carrots in 1900 is now dead, and that's why carrots are bad. Well, yeah, they ate carrots in 1900. They're probably dead now because they're too old. It had nothing to do with carrots. So I can find data to support like anything that I am looking for as long as I'm in this bubble. So if you show interest in conspiracy theories, the algorithm is going to continue to show you conspiracy theory related things. It talked a lot about Pizzagate, how it's starting to recommend these like Pizzagate groups, which was a big conspiracy theory that children were being trafficked through pizzerias or something like that. And so somebody came and like shot up a pizzeria because he was trying to free the children who were like, locked in the basement. And I don't even think the pizzeria had a basement. Um, but it's because that, who's showing interest in like this conspiracy theory and then this one gets recommended to you and you just keep going down that rabbit hole because you keep getting recommendations because you've shown interest in that. Um, and so they did a study, well, Twitter apparently did a study um, that fake news spreads 6 times faster than real news. And I kind of said, or is that the sensationalized news spreads faster? Because a huge news event would also spread fast. Hurricane is coming or, California wildfires. That news spreads really fast as well. But I think so fake news is usually very sensationalized. And so that is what's really spreading. So if it's real news, but it's also very sensational, it's going to also spread that fast, I believe. That doesn't stop, fake news from being a problem, but I'm just saying that real news can spread just as fast as long as it's as interesting as what is fake. Um, so they start talking about coronavirus misinformation and how it's hard to know what's true. Back in the fake families, teens school, the teen boy is still just browsing his phone and getting down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole. Um, and so it starts talking about governments weaponizing social media into like mass manipulation. And this is where it becomes a problem, but is technology really responsible for this kind of manipulation? When we obviously saw it in World War II, the Nazis controlled the information in Germany. They had propaganda everywhere. And so they had mass manipulation because they controlled the information. And it's the same here. Who is in control of the information? And that's really, I think, where we need to be talking about. It's not necessarily whether or not, Facebook or Instagram is good or bad. Technology is agnostic. Um, the but the people who are on the platforms and controlling the information, that is where the problem is. So, I don't begrudge any freedom of speech to any social platforms. It is their platform. They created it. They can control what is being disseminated on it. But, so I guess the question is, do they have a responsibility to present both sides of the coin? Um, because they are in control of the information. Um, so I think that's where really they can improve is that if they're in control of the information, and they say this in a minute, and I can't remember where it is, but yeah, so they if they are going to have political ads, they need to be able to present both sides the um of the platform. So, if I'm going to accept a political ad from this person, then I also need to show a political ad from this person as well. Um, so that the information can be on both sides, and then the users can determine what they believe and what they feel to be true. Um, so the teen boy attends a protest rally. What they're talking about, and then they go back. Like I said, they just keep going back and forth. You can buy targeted ads to manipulate and destabilize societies. And there's testimony about whether or not the 2016 election was manipulated by social media. And I just kind of talked about we're still in this echo chamber where two sides can't hear each other. I can only hear what's on my side, and you can only hear what's on your side. And so the echo chamber makes you think that everybody thinks like you, and like, why would you think this other thing? Because everybody thinks like I do. And if something happens where a vote comes in and the majority of the United States votes a specific way, you can get upset like, "Oh my gosh, there's fraud, there's, corruption and everything like that," because obviously everybody was gonna vote my way, and, the outliers would vote for the other person. Um, But really just I'm in this echo chamber and I don't know what's going on the other side and how many people are in that side. And so when I see these votes come in, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's got to be fraud because everybody thinks like I do." So I think that's where the problem is that we're in these echo chambers and we can't see the other side. Um, so talking about, is it democracy for sale? We need shared understanding. AI is not going to solve this problem because AI doesn't know what truth is. And it can't know what truth is. And this is another one from Kathy O'Neill. Like I said, I loved Kathy O'Neill. She was great. The Connors continue to manipulate the teen boy, and then there's hundreds of rooms of Connors for everyone. Um, and then this was a quote that I really liked. The technology is not the threat. It's the ability of technology to bring out the worst in people. And I totally agree with that. Interviewees say they're worried about civil war, decline of society. And then it kind of ends with, how do you wake up from the matrix when you don't know you're in the matrix? Matrix, great movie. Um, Doom and gloom says technology is ruining kids. But it's both. And this guy says it's both dystopia and utopia. Because the likes they created, they meant to spread joy, like, oh, people are liking this. And then they didn't think, okay, well, kids ended up putting up a lot of value on these likes. And then we get into, how do we make the world better? And then Connor meets the teen boy and says hello. Um, so they're calling for for regulation. And this was one of the points that I thought was interesting, maybe a tax on data collection. And I kind of like this because the companies still have a choice to collect data, but if you tax that data, they might not collect as much data as they can, because right now it's just a free for all. They're collecting all the data that they can. But if there's a tax on that data, then they might be like, oh, they might pick and choose what's most important to them. Um, and the money is driving these solutions at the moment. So here was the best part of the entire video. I thought this the first time I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, the credits were the best part of the whole video. And so I'm going to like lay out exactly what they said in the credits that I thought was really key. Loved all the points that were in the credits. So make sure you stay through the credits. But collective will is needed. So failure in technology is a lack of leadership. I believe that. People who need to own it and figure out what is going to be good for them and for society. They said, uninstall apps that are wasting your time, turn off notifications for things that are not important. And the guy said, it's not like I don't keep cookies in my pocket because I'm just going to eat the cookies. If I have these notifications on, I'm going to check the notifications when I get it. So turning off notifications for things that you don't need to respond to right away. And that's what I do. Like anything that is going to notify me on my watch or on my phone, it has to be something that I need to respond to right away. And then I will get that notification. So I turn off all notifications that are not necessary for me to respond to right away. The one guy says, never accept the recommended video, although sometimes the recommended video looks very, very interesting and I will definitely click on it. Before you share, fact check. That one is so important. If you're going to share something, if you're going to share anything, fact check it. It is designed to push, if is it designed to push your emotional buttons? If so, do not click. Don't click on clickbait. Clickbait is called clickbait for a reason. So if you continue to click on clickbait, you will continue to be fed more clickbait. So anything that like gets your emotions up, don't click on it. Because most of the time it's not even going to say what you're looking for. Because it's clickbait and so it just wants you to click. And then once you read it, you're like, this had nothing to do with the title. Follow people you don't agree with. And I love this one. I have several different friends on both sides of the coin, and I'm always exposed to both sides of the platform. Um, so follow people that you don't agree with, because if you just delete anybody who you don't completely agree with, you're only going to continue to see things that you agree with, and you're not going to be exposed to different ideas. So that was like the biggest takeaway for me. Follow people you don't agree with. Um, a lot of the executives are saying, zero social media, no screen time. um, I definitely don't subscribe to that, because I believe everything can be done in moderation. There is good that can happen on these platforms, but you just need to be able to moderate it, be able to figure out what is going to elicit a reaction with you. Just be very smart about your social media consumption, and be very smart about your kids' social media consumption. Um, no devices in the bedroom. Shut off the Wi-Fi at night. That's a big one that I am very on board with. And then no social media until it is age appropriate. And work out a time budget with your kid. Sit down with your kid. Hey, how long do you think you should be able to spend on social media every day? And set up those time frames with your parental controls. So that was the social dilemma. So if you're interested in watching it, I mean, I just ran down exactly what it says. So you definitely can watch it. It was good. Um, but I think it was very dramatized. The family, I feel like, was, totally unnecessary. The fake family, totally unnecessary. They were very dramatic. A lot of stuff that, like, I'm like, real people wouldn't do that. Um and so I think it was overhyped. So um other than the family, they had a lot of good information. Like I said, the best part of the whole thing was the credits. So anyway, check it out. And next week, I'm going to do Childhood 2.0, another documentary. It's available on YouTube. I actually have not watched that one yet, so I will watch it this week, and I will have another live next Tuesday to go over Childhood 2.0. So until next week, we'll see you later.